Do you have or are you considering starting an ABA business? It can be scary and a real challenge. We have some advice that can help you in growing your small business in ABA.
Hi, I'm Shira.
And I'm Shayna.
We are behavior analysts that create weekly content about how to teach kids with autism so that they make real progress. And we create shareable resources to make your job just a little easier. Today's topic is all about growing your small business in ABA. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new video releases.
So I owned three ABA clinics, and it was really stressful at times, but it was also really rewarding and very enjoyable. And I started them because it was like, well, I want to be my own boss, and so I just started consulting, and it grew from there. And then I hired a few people, and then I'd hire a few more people, and found a location. And it just really started growing and snowballing before I really had a huge plan in place. And then all of a sudden, I was a business owner. I had 25 staff under me. I had three centers. I had 90 clients. It was great. But as a business owner, I had no time and I didn't have a defined role for myself. I was everything. I mean, I was sweeping the floors sometimes, I was answering the phones, I was developing behavior service plans, I was giving staff training, I was doing everything. So let's talk about how to grow your staff business or how to grow your ABA business, not the way I did it. Let's talk about how, in hindsight, we really do need to be organized and set ourselves up for success.
Yeah, I think we all learn a lot of these pieces the hard way, unfortunately, because we spend our whole, education preparing for a career in ABA where we're learning the skills, we're learning all the theory and the techniques, and then we spend our whole supervision experience learning how to write programs and learning how to work with kids. Very rarely do we learn the parts of being, a BCBA if you are going to go into running a business, which are, management of staff, management of yourself, budgeting, systems, all of those things that are really not part of the task list. And we sometimes learn them the hard way. So we are going to try to prevent that for you.
I think the very first thing we should be talking about is time management. Like I said, as a business owner, probably as anyone, but especially as a business owner, it feels like you have zero time because you're always trying to get the most done. So in terms of time management, looking at your schedule and trying to set a schedule for yourself. When we work with our learners, we always give them a schedule. So making sure you have yourself a schedule as well. I would always schedule, my week, or I would schedule a month in advance, but things change. And then making sure that you're scheduling from a week to week basis. Usually on a Friday, I would try and set my schedule for the following week, even down to the nitty gritty. Like if I knew staff training was a priority, or staff training with this one particular person was a priority, it gets written on my calendar. If I know that I have to see a client, and I know I'm in a center and what have you, I am writing that down on my calendar. I need to go see so-and-so around 11 o'clock. It may not happen right at 11, but it's going to be in and around that time. Even making a phone call, I put all of those things in my calendar to make sure they got done. And the really important ones, I would put in a different color on my calendar, and I would set myself up with some alerts. So if it was almost 11 and I still hadn't gone to see that client yet, it alerted me on my phone so that I was like, oh, you're right, I need to go do this.
Yeah, it's very easy in our type of job to fall into this, kind of putting out fires every day and being called to do stuff at the last minute. Things pop up that are unexpected, and it's very easy to really lose control of your time. So you have to get ahead of it, and you have to book things into your calendar. I always say, it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. Every meeting, every appointment, everything has to go into the calendar, where I will forget and I'll get caught up in something else that, is important, but, maybe didn't need my attention in that moment. But when you do that, and when you take back control of your time, you also have to be okay with saying no. So if something does come up, then you have to be able to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now, but let's find a time when I can. So taking back your time is easier said than done, but it does require some other skills. It also requires some delegation. If you are not available because your schedule is full, can you ask somebody else to take on something that is important, but that doesn't fit into your schedule? So you first have to know what your schedule looks like, what can fit into your schedule, to be able to say yes or no, to be able to take things on. Do you really have room to take on a new family and a new client, or is your schedule really full? And then also being able to delegate some important tasks that you can't say no to, but you can find somebody else who can do those.
I schedule in time for myself into my calendar as well. And that unfortunately, learned that the hard way. So, you get busy, and the first thing to fall is, for me, anyways, the first thing to falter was lunch. I would work through lunch and I wouldn't remember to eat it. I wouldn't remember. And all of a sudden it's 4 p.m. and I have zero energy. And it's because I didn't eat lunch. So now I actually do schedule in lunch into my calendar. And it sounds so silly, but I take that half hour for me. I also schedule things in like workouts. So making sure that, first thing in the morning or whenever I'm working out, I'm putting that in my calendar so no one can take that time from me. And what Shira said about saying no is so important. If it's in your calendar and someone wants to book you for something else and it's lunch or it's a workout, I used to say, well, it's business, so I should be taking that on, and it's okay, I'll eat later, or I'll do this later. That's really important. I need to fit them in. No, the answer is no. If you don't take time for yourself, if you don't take time to eat, you're going to lose that energy, and that energy you carry can carry other people as well. So making sure that those things are in there for yourself, take that time.
And the other thing, I, kind of learned the hard way through a lot of trial and error. And I think it's very easy to do this when you have a small business. You don't really think of the systems that you need to put in place because you're kind of a one-man show. You do a little bit of everything, and then you start to learn through, maybe some mistakes or some challenges that you encounter, that systems really do help. And even though your business is small, it's still really important, if you can, to start out with some systems. So even, an organizational chart, who's managing whose role is what, having job descriptions and role expectations. I find this is really helpful for staff because I might have all that information in my head, but if I'm not communicating it in a way that feels safe and systematic, then it doesn't feel fair to them always that I'm having expectations that they maybe weren't aware of. So put it out there, make it clear what the expectations are, what roles are that you're hiring. Have training protocols in place so that you know what that policy is. If somebody's starting, do they get to overlap? Do they have to participate in certain training so that they're onboarded appropriately? We do have a video on our behavior blueprint and our staff training product, so it makes it a whole lot easier if you're interested in that. But also trying to anticipate certain challenges that you might encounter. So it might be having people sign certain forms, have people read certain contracts, creating certain guidelines and rules around certain things that you want to happen or not happen. I know we got, a lot of questions in the community about communication with parents and it becoming overwhelming because parents are over communicating, or they want a lot of communication on people's, cell phones and texting and WhatsApping and meetings. And that would be a great thing to set as a guideline from the beginning. Here's how you can expect your team to communicate with you, and pick a way that is beneficial to everybody, whether that's through a daily email or through a meeting once a week, or whatever you feel like is doable and that the family will feel supported, but in a way that you are not burdened and burned out because you are constantly meeting people's needs in every way. We deal with so many people and everybody has needs, and unfortunately we just can't always accommodate. So you have to pick the most important things that you're willing to do and work with the families in how they would receive that, and make it clear.
Those policies and procedures, guidelines are so important. I've walked into an organization before, literally, and they've given me 100-page manual and said, here you go, here's your training. I was so overwhelmed. I mean, yes, you need those policies in place, but that training doesn't need to happen all at once. So looking at that onboarding and saying, well, what's the most critical piece in the onboarding? And start there. And have them go through that onboarding system gradually. It's not an all or nothing thing. It's okay, here's the basic things you need to start. And then here's a plan for over the next 3 months or over the next 5 months, whatever it is, how to disseminate that information to you. And that's how we came up with that behavior blueprint, because Shira and I have been onboarding people for years, and we have all of these things, and it's like, well, what if we had a system in place? So we've got 20 hours worth of training, and it's all about, well, what do you say to that parent when they say this? We talk about, a little bit about the basics, like, what is ABA, but we quickly get into, here's how to teach requesting. Here's how to teach specific programs, because this is what you're going to need to know first.
So another thing to consider is setting intentions. Like I said, sometimes it's very easy to just fall into like putting out fires, and as things come to you, you're helping and you're solving problems. And I think we all love doing that because we all love helping and solving problems. But part of getting ahead of that, mentality is to take a step back and think about, what are my goals? What are my intentions? And you could do that a day at a time, a week at a time, quarter at a time. We do it for our business. And I think if you're running any kind of business, you need to be very intentional about what your goals are, what you're creating, what you want to do with your center, with your career, with your ABA business, whatever that is. For us with How to ABA, our intention has always been to help support professionals in the field of ABA. So whether you're a BCBA or an RBT or a paraprofessional, our goal is to help support you by providing resources and community. By saying who we do support, we're also saying who we don't support. That means that we're not necessarily geared towards parents. We're not geared towards people who aren't in the field of ABA, who have some other certification and maybe work with kids with autism also. Maybe they're not our audience. So by setting an intention, you are, maybe saying what you're not doing, but you're also being very clear about what you are doing. And you can become very clear on your goals and make sure that when you do become clear on those goals, that you have a way of being accountable. You could be creating goals for yourself and your team, and create ways that you're going to work towards those goals. So we always talk about data. We do this very often in our business. We have data driving every decision that we make here in our business. And you could do that too. So have a way to monitor your progress, whether it's through new client intakes and tracking how many clients are coming to you, whether it's through a parent's survey and you're getting data on how happy they are with your product. Any one of these are ways for you to be informed about making the decisions that are helping you get towards your goals.
And on a day-to-day basis, sometimes as a business owner, you're so caught in the weeds. What I mean by that is that you're so overwhelmed with some of those day-to-day things, and things pop up that you didn't even account for in that daily schedule. And, sometimes you get so far away from what those goals are that you just forget. You're like, I'm too busy putting out fires right now, and I'm too busy to do all of this stuff. And then 6 months pass, and you're like, oh yeah, that long-term goal. So if you're setting those intentions or referring back to your goal, your long-term goal on a regular basis, that will help keep you a little bit more grounded. Another thing that I like to do is create like a daily to-do list, right? So yes, I've got my schedule, but I've also got something on my to-do list. And the problem with that, for me anyways, was that I would put 10 things on my to-do list, and maybe if I was lucky on a good day, I would get one of them done. That was it. I was, what's going on? So if you've got that long-term goal or that long-term intention, you can break that down into smaller components. And then, you can choose weekly goals, or, what, this week I'm going to tackle this specifically related to my longer term goal. Yes, I have to do all these other things, but that one little thing will get me closer to my goal. And if you can be that organized, it's hard, but you can do it. If you can be that organized, you'll set yourself up for success.
Right. So those intentions should directly translate into daily habits. So if your intention is to, live a healthier lifestyle, and you want to then have a daily habit of moving your body every day, you have to be very consciously aware of the time you're spending on social media, asking for a friend, and knowing that when I come home from work, I should be putting in my schedule that I want to go for a walk and I want to move my body. But for some reason, things get in the way. So it should be a real daily habit for you to work towards your intentions.
Absolutely. The other big thing towards working towards your intentions, getting things done, is delegation, and knowing what tasks you can delegate to other people. If you've done this well, you've built a good, solid team, trust them. Trust them. There's lots of things that you can delegate to somebody else. If, answering the phone, for instance, you're usually on the phone and you're trying to provide great quality, quality care to people. And, you get some new intakes and they're telling you, 20 minutes, 30 minutes about their kid, which they should be doing. that takes a long time out of your day. Maybe that can be delegated to somebody else and they can take those notes so that, the person on the other end of the phone gets to talk to you once the intake actually happens, because not all phone calls lead to intakes. So making sure that you can delegate some of those tasks. As a business owner, yes, sometimes you do need to be sweeping the floor, but is there somebody else who can sweep the floor? Can you put together a list for your staff to do at the end of every day so that they've got stuff to do as well?
And something that I love is taking certain shortcuts. There's so many automations that you could take advantage of. We used to go back and forth by email about booking meetings and booking intakes or whatever that is, but you could simply create, now that they have the option in one of our email providers, is to have a link at the end of every one of your email that syncs with your calendar. And that way you don't have to go back and forth scheduling meetings. Your calendar is right there. They can click a link and they can book a time with you. So using those automations is really, really helpful. And the other thing that's important with delegation is sometimes we're afraid to give up some of that control, or maybe we don't trust people as much as we should. So it's also a skill to learn while you're delegating, is communicating with your staff, whoever you're managing, whoever you're working with, and learning how to keep everybody in the loop is also important. So like knowing who to include on emails, or just sending brief updates to certain people and giving them the information that they need, and expecting that they give you the information that you need. So you don't have to completely not be aware of something because you've delegated it, but you have to then be intentional again about how you're communicating with the people you've delegated to.
Absolutely. So I think we've already mentioned the behavior blueprint. Check that out if you're looking for ideas for staff onboarding. It's a pretty great course. Now, of course, I'm biased. I'm the one who created it, but it is really helpful in terms of being able to train staff and quickly. And then that's more automation that doesn't take your time.
For more information on growing your small business in ABA, click the link on or around this video or in the description to join our next live CEU event, Setting Yourself Up for Success, Getting Ahead of Your Business. We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos, and leave a like and comment below if you have further questions.